Pilgrimage was one of the primary forms of worship in ancient Buddhist India around the 6th century BC. During the life of the Buddha, followers listened to his teachings. In his absence, they visited the four major places of import in his life: his birth, enlightenment, first sermon, and death. In time, such places grew more numerous. As the influence of Buddhism expanded east, visitors like the 7th century monk Xuanzang came west and recorded their visits to pilgrimage centers. As Buddhism made its way to China, the practice of pilgrimage, now to Chinese destinations, followed. For example, the 8th century cave 61 at Dunhuang in the Gobi Desert has an early representation of the distant Buddhist temple complex of Wutaishan and activities there. By the time of the later Ming Dynasty, 16th century, pilgrimage was widespread as both a religious and popular pastime. After the communist suppression of religion in 1980, people were once again free to visit holy locations. However, the government closely monitored religious activity, and such restrictive policies have increased dramatically under Xi Jinping. For nearly 1,000 years, pilgrims explored the sacred geography of the Buddhist theocracy of Tibet. This is all the more true today. Though many of its visitors are entranced by its celestial geography and people, few were inspired to make it a major and spiritual theme in their art. Within the limited time allotment, I will view a few examples of Chinese contemporary artists and their art within the context of spiritual practice in Tibet. A more extensive study would include artists who focus on other religious sites in China. Gao Bo, born in 1964 in college, had a desire to go to the farthest place on earth. Living in China at that time, he went to Tibet. The many times he traveled there had a great impact on his thinking and production of art. Based on the archive of hundreds of photographs that he took during the period of 1986 to 1990, which resumed in 1995, his many mixed media works reveal his inspiration. For him, Tibet was a sacred place where religious practice assuaged the hardships of mountain people cut off from the world. Visiting its austere snow-covered mountains, its sacred temples housing monks, and the kindness and spiritual nature of the Tibetans gave him peace of mind and led him to meditate on their lifestyle, religion, and endurance. Among the many creations that feature photos of Tibetans are black and white prints of those early photos, over which he inscribed an illegible and seemingly mystical script. Perhaps this pseudo-writing was meant to convey the sacrality of Tibetan scriptures, protective chants, and incantations that are so much a part of Tibetan religious practice, but beyond the comprehension of the uninitiated. Like anthropological notations, they also seem to detail the event. There is a nostalgia to the works. Some of the Buddhist temples no longer exist, and many of the people are long gone. In addition, he uses his own blood, explaining that while in Tibet, he arranged for the hospital to take his blood and give it to him in a vial so that he could use it as ink. As in ancient Buddhist practice, the devotee would prick his finger and write a sacred text with his own blood as an act of deepest sincerity. No doubt Gao Bo's intention is similar. His good friend, the Goli Lama, also inscribed some of the photos in blood. But Gao Bo's writing is gibberish, a destruction of the logic of the written word, shared with many of his contemporaries like Xu Bing, Wen Dagu, Chu Shijie. This is another one that features his photographs over which he applied a gouache. His many, many works like that. Gao Lei, born in 1965, his photos are a tribute to his admiration of Tibet, where he often travels to visit friends. He talks about its open spaces and isolated places where he is free to roam, and the deep kindness, spirituality, and honesty of its people. With technical expertise, he captures the vast landscapes of Tibet, digitally stitching multiple large-sized negatives and printing them in impossibly large scale on such unusual media as rice paper, giving the image the patina of ancient Chinese landscape painting. His work, Buddhist Academy from the North of 2009, is comprised of 120 medium format black and white negatives stitched together. 120 negatives he digitally stitched together. The Wuming Buddhist Academy is the largest open-air college for nuns and monks. More than 100,000 living in the valley in 2010. And Gao explains, the nuns and monks stay there for a lifelong study. Their family members send food to them to help sustain them. They are largely Tibetans, but few are Han Chinese people in Tibetan Buddhist dress. Gao described his feelings. The Tibetans and their belief changed the shape of the landscape for me. Pure and tranquil, the people have made the tough environment calm and peaceful. Talking about his photograph, Danger Path from 2009, of the Kuer Shan mountain, believed to be the most dangerous point on the road from Tibet to Sichuan, he describes driving in the winter snow 40 kilometers up and then down the mountain in this no man's land, and his euphoria. He said, the pure, simple, and empty feeling he experienced, adding that he did not feel danger despite the warning sign at the top of the mountain reading, caution, most dangerous area. In Monk 2009, Gao photographed a Buddhist monk who serves as a cook in the Changbatan Mountain Monastery. Another portrait depicts a young monk. Gao's photographs recreate the images of Tibet's past and preserve them for the future. Zhang Huan, the performance and mixed media artist born in 1965, converted to Tibetan Buddhism in 2008, but his family before the revolution were devout Buddhists. Buddhist imagery dominates most of his later art. Berlin Buddha from 2007 consists of a Buddha made of incense ash that slowly disintegrates. On the opposite side of the studio is an illumined sculptural mold for the next iteration of the sculpture. Zhang describes his material. I visited the Lunghua Temple in Shanghai to burn incense before Buddha. There, I noticed many lay Buddhists who spent hours alone with the sculpture of Buddha, muttering prayers. They all seemed to have entered another state of mind, as if they were hypnotized. I was deeply moved by the power of the sculpture and the allure of such power, attracting people to burn incense and to pray. The temple floor was covered with ash, which leaked from the giant incense burner. Seeing this image of ash conjured a feeling inside of me. It was a beautiful material, and it moved me greatly. These ash remains speak of the fulfillment of millions of hopes, dreams, and blessings. It was here that I finally discovered the ingredient I had been looking for to pave the way for new work. Zhang's travels to Tibet led him to gather remnants of destroyed Buddhist icons and use them for new works of art. He says, I collected a lot of fragments of Buddhist sculptures in Tibet that had been destroyed or looted during the Cultural Revolution. When I saw these fragments in Lhasa, a mysterious power impressed me. They were embedded with historical traces and religion, just like the limbs of a human. 3 heads, 6 arms weighs 16 tons, and he says this sculpture reflects the attitude of humankind, having conquered nature, and even reflects deeds of volition and hope. And so here there are 3 heads and 6 arms. This one has 6 heads and, 6 heads and 6 arms, and one of them is the artist himself. I hope you can see, facing us, the one facing us with the eyes closed. And another one is a restored fabrication of a restored Buddha head. The prolific artist also has made spectacularly colorful paintings of Tibetan masks, and these have all kinds of expressions on them. And he says the kind of blithe spiritualization that under Mao was long dismissed as the opiate of the masses. The magnetic appeal of Tibet drew many other artists, including Yin Shu Jun, born 1963, the multimedia artist, who filled shoes with yak butter, assembled them around a river, and commemorated the event in a photograph. Her husband, Sung Dung, the multimedia video artist, has long been heralded for his performance in the Lhasa River, where he stamped the graph for water innumerable times. It resisted his attempt to categorize it. As Sung has said, I exerted great force in stamping the seal on the water, but in the end left no trace. Tsuego Tai, born in 1964, also spent a lot of time in Tibet, which he commemorated in large-scale expressionist paintings like Tibetan Yak, the power of the Tibetan people, he explained, and this landscape at the top of the mountain. Finally, the younger Liu Yang, born in 1984, is a digital artist who draws freely from Tibetan Buddhist mandalas in her works. All of these artists draw upon different characteristics of Tibetan Buddhist culture, but they do so cautiously, since the China policy governing Tibet as a province that they invaded in 1950 is a sensitive subject. Thank you.